Hello everyone. Welcome to my YNR 24 spoilers. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Audra's depressing day and Nick's urgent mission. According to Friday, October 17th spoilers for The Young and the Restless, Audra Charles has another rough day. Nick Newman starts an inquiry, and Billy and Jack Abbott have a pivotal conversation. Jack and Billy are erratic brothers who have recently grown cold to one another. On Friday's YNR episode, Jack, the more mature one, tries to put an end to the argument. Is Jack able to explain to Billy? Jack informs Billy that in order to defeat Kane Ashby, the town outcast, they must get back together. How is Billy going to react to common sense? It ought to be fascinating. Billy might not be responsive because he is recovering from a shock. Behind his back, his girlfriend Sally Spectra approached his mother, Jill Abbott, to request funding for their business. Jack might offer his opinion on this dispute. Noah is in the area of danger. A large portion of GC is larking around in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, Noah Newman's experience turned dangerous after he was involved in a car accident and is currently in a coma. Nick takes it upon himself to investigate this tragedy after Detective Burrow suggested foul involvement. It appears that before Noah's automobile struck a ravine, it might have been run off the road. Nick might attempt to speak with the witness who reported the collision in order to obtain more information because the motorist left the scene. Is Nick able to find out what befell Noah? Nick is motivated to discover the person who wounded Noah by Sharon Newman's distress about her son's situation. Detective Burrow promises to crack the complex case, but Nick and Sharon worry that Noah might still be in danger. Audra's past haunts her in other places. The past of Audra is disturbing. Audra, Noah's ex-girlfriend, might still be in love with him. Will her old sentiments come back when she finds out what happened in Los Angeles? According to spoilers for Juicy the Young and the Restless, Noah and Audra might reunite at some time, which would completely shock GC. Jack and Billy make amends. These are the spoilers for Friday, October 17th, 2025's episode of The Young and the Restless. The Young and the Restless next episodes. On The Young and the Restless, Jack has been Billy's encouraging big brother. Jack might occasionally feel more like Billy's dad than his big brother. He has supported his younger brother's business endeavor and attempted to dissuade him from seeking revenge on Victor Newman, pointing out that such an endeavor is always doomed to fail. Watch for Jack to make amends with Billy on Friday's show. Will Billy ever come to terms with the fact that he and his brother had a disagreement? Or will Billy's discomfort persist as a result of this encounter? Time is running out. Nick Newman on The Young and the Restless will do anything in the world to keep his family safe. Given the state of his son, Noah's condition, Nick might feel helpless. Certain details of the terrible vehicle accident he was in have surfaced. It wasn't an accident when Noah's automobile crashed. Nick is never more fervent than when he is worried about his family's security and well-being. Watch for Nick to look for answers on Friday's episode. He will want to ensure that the person who attacked his son is held accountable and cannot hurt Noah or anyone else in the future. Once Nick has them in his grasp, Noah's attackers will probably feel like they've been struck by a car. Audra, ouch. On The Young and the Restless, Audra Charles will be given a distressing reminder of her past. When Audra Charles arrived in Genoa City, her goal was to start over. It hasn't been easy for Sally to accomplish that outside of her friendships with Amy and Sally. She made contact with Victor, who hinted at sponsoring Audra's startup in exchange for Audra severing Kyle and Claire. Given Claire's response to Kyle's actions that exposed her, Audra technically contributed to their separation. When Audra gets a terrible reminder about her history in Friday's episode, things are about to get worse for her. Will Audra succumb to this reminder, or will she continue to fight? Although we suspect the latter, listen to discover Genoa City's pulse. The Young and the Restless Friday, October 17th, 2025, episode served as a reminder of the show's rich storytelling heritage rather than just another Genoa City day. A powerful blend of urgency, sadness, brotherly tension, and the eerie echoes of the past were all present in this episode. With Nick Newman's desperate attempt to learn the truth about his son's tragic car accident, Audra Charles's emotional reflection on her past, and the complicated brotherhood between Jack and Billy Abbott, Y&R gave viewers a reminder of why, even after all these years, this soap opera is still a major source of human drama. Each plotline touched on themes of ambition, remorse, loyalty, and the hurt of unresolved business, so there was no lack of passion or depth. These threads were expertly woven together by the authors to create a weekend cliffhanger that would have viewers discussing, speculating, and rewatching moments long after the credits had rolled. Let's examine everything. Audra's encounter with ghosts she believed she had buried, Nick's battle against time, Sharon's silent suffering, and the Abbott brothers' reckoning. Blood, betrayal, and brotherhood. Jack and Billy Abbott. Jack and Billy Abbott's relationship on The Young and the Restless has a rich emotional past. The Abbott brothers have loved and injured each other for decades, yet they always manage to get back together. Their bond is based on more than simply blood. It is also based on the common wounds of personal failure and family legacy. There was a noticeable tension between them on this specific Friday. Ever the calm patriarch, Jack Abbott came into the situation with the specific goal of re-establishing contact. The brothers' relationship had deteriorated in the last few months. Billy had once again found himself on a collision course with fate and his family due to his impetuous nature and his never-ending need for approval. Jack, the lull in the Abbott storm, came cautiously and wisely. As he attempted to close the distance, his voice retained that recognizable tone, a blend of tenderness and authority. His message was straightforward but profound. They are mutually dependent. Kane Ashby was now a commercial adversary, a manipulator in spirit, and a pain in both their sides. Jack was aware that they could only preserve the Abbott name and their business's heritage by banding together. Billy's pride, however, was hurt. Sally Spectra's recent acts left a sting of betrayal that persisted. Billy felt ashamed when she had approached his mother, Jill Abbott, behind his back to ask for money. It was a personal choice as much as a professional one. Billy's fears of not being trusted to stand on his own were heightened by Sally's move, which went right to the core of his worries. Jack attempted to reason with him, as usual. The reality wasn't sugar-coated. He reminded Billy that impetuosity might be admirable in passionate situations, but it can also be disastrous in relationships and career. The issue that hung in the air like unsaid tension between brothers who have fought this battle too many times before was whether Billy could hear that reality, or if his ego would once again ruin his potential. Jack's remarks were about atonement more than business. He had previously witnessed Billy spiral. He has witnessed him take risks with his relationships, profession, and even his sanity. Jack needed to clear the air in order to protect his brother from himself, not merely for business purposes. Billy saw more than just an elder brother when he peered into Jack's eyes. He saw a reflection of love, disappointment, and tired hope. For Jack, the goal was connection rather than control. However, it may take multiple heart-to-hearts to bridge the emotional gap between them. The Abbotts were more than simply business associates in this episode. They were a family attempting to maintain equilibrium in a world that was tearing them apart all the time. They have one of the most enduring and sympathetic relationships on the program because of this chemistry. Nick Newman, the desperation of a father and the instinct of a detective. Nick Newman, on the other hand, was thrown into one of the worst periods of his life while he was across town and across emotional dimensions. In a hospital in Los Angeles, his son Noah Newman lay unconscious after a horrific vehicle accident that may or may not have been an accident. Nick's expression when he first appeared on screen captured the horror of any father. Shock, terror, and the unwavering resolve that only arises when a loved one is in peril. Nick became alarmed when Detective Burrow suggested that there might have been foul play. He was now more than simply a father. He was a man on a mission, a protector, and an investigator. Family is not only Nick's top priority, it is who he is. We have often witnessed him overcome insurmountable obstacles on behalf of those he cares about. Nick always jumps into the fray, whether it's defending Victoria from personal and professional predators, shielding Sharon, or sticking up for Faith. It was Noah now. According to reports, Noah's vehicle was pushed off the road and into a ravine. The other car's driver had left the scene, leaving Noah struggling to stay alive and his family searching for information. Nick had trouble staying still. His pace, clenched jaw, and haunting gaze exuded an electric tension. In the hopes that even a small piece of information might lead him to the truth, he immediately set out to track down the witness who had reported the crash. Nick Newman is a man whose power and fragility coexist in perpetual tension, and this plotline captures that character. Despite not being a police officer, he has incredibly keen instincts. Despite not being a detective, he is unrelenting due to his moral compass and love for his family. It became evident to him as he put the pieces of the case together that this was about redemption as much as justice. Nick has already harbored guilt. He has been living with regrets for years. Lost opportunities, strained relationships, and decisions that cost him the people he cares about. He now saw a mission and a punishment in Noah's tragedy. He could not allow his son's death to become just another unresolved story. Then there was Sharon Newman, a mother's silent power in grief. Sharon Newman stood in silent pain as Nick screamed and chased leads. She was in a state of mental turmoil due to her son's illness. We've witnessed Sharon endure a lot of hardships, including heartbreaks, grief, and mental health issues. But nothing is more devastating than witnessing your kid on the brink of death. Her scenes demonstrated subtle destruction. Sharon Case's portrayal was filled with pain, shame, and unadulterated humanity, as seen by the way her voice cracked when she talked about Noah, the quiver in her hands, and the distant stare. Her eyes betrayed her despite her best efforts to remain strong for Nick. There was a tangible fear of losing Noah. Furthermore, Sharon almost lost her temper when Detective Burrow implied that Noah's accident could not have been an accident at all. The combined suffering of Sharon and Nick has a really poignant quality. They are still connected decades after their initial love story, not only by history but also by their kid. The intimacy that fans had long desired between them was rekindled by this catastrophe. Sharon didn't have to say a word when Nick promised to find out who did this. She was agreeing, believing, and pleading when she remained silent. Together, they stood for Sharon's faith and Nick's fire, two parts of a whole. This interplay is what gives Y&R's enduring personalities their timeless quality. Although their hardships change, their hearts never change. Who wanted to hurt Noah Newman? The mystery deepens. The vehicle collision was more than just an accident, it was a riddle. It also had layers of intrigue, much like any good soap opera mystery. Who was out to hurt Noah? Was it arbitrary? Was it a message for the other person? The investigation conducted by Detective Burrow left more questions than it resolved. He made a suggestion that tire marks found at the scene of the collision were indicative of a fast-paced pursuit. The Newman family was chilled by the thought that Noah's car had been purposefully pushed off the road. Nick had a gut feeling that this was personal. He had a suspicion that the person who targeted Noah might have done it to harm Sharon or him. Is it related to one of Nick's numerous competitors in the business world? Or did it represent a ghost from Noah's own history? Audra Charles enters. Audra Charles, chased by recollections haunted by love, integrating emotional subplots into more expansive stories, is one of the young and the restless greatest strengths. The sequences with Audra Charles in this episode amply demonstrated that. Audra has had to remake herself quite a few times. Her history has always been one step behind her, despite her hopes of starting over in Genoa City. Audra has attempted to go from an ambitious schemer with costly romantic relationships to a well-respected entrepreneur. The past, however, never really remains buried, as Friday's episode demonstrated. She wasn't prepared for the shock of learning that Noah had been in a near-fatal accident. She assured herself that she had moved on and that their chapter was over, but the barriers she had put up started to come down at that instant. The show immersed viewers in Audra's own emotional turmoil. When she was by herself, She relived the memories of her time with Noah, including the agony, the laughter, and the unspoken farewells. She still cares, as evidenced by her expression. She was frightened by that concern. In every way, this was Audra's sad day. Realization was more important than remorse alone. She might never get to say what she didn't say, and the man she once loved might never wake up. However, Audra's plot was about identity as much as love. She had gotten a distressing reminder of her past earlier in the day, possibly in the form of an old acquaintance, a letter, or a face from her prior life that threatened to reveal the secrets she had tried so hard to keep hidden. She was frightened by the mix of her personal guilt and her unstable career. She has made several mistakes in her attempt to remake herself in Genoa City. Her connection with Sally was strained, her alliance with Victor Newman was precarious, and her integrity as a professional was continually put to the test. She is now caught in the crossfire of reputation and emotion as Noah's tragedy approaches. This arc's dual nature is what makes it so brilliant. Audra is grieving not only for what she lost, but also for the person she was when she loved Noah, and her suffering over his illness is parallel to her own self-discovery. This tragedy could rekindle their relationship, as the show suggested. Noah's encounter with death might make him more tolerant of Audra if he recovers. Otherwise, Audra might use her guilt to track out his attacker, unexpectedly lining up her path with Nick's. Both paths offer gripping drama. The ghosts of Genoa City, the intersection of the past, present, and future. The focus of Friday's episode was intersections rather than discrete plot lines. Nick and Sharon's emotional conflict was reflected in Jack and Billy's rivalry. Both couples had to deal with issues of pride, family, and trust. The Abbotts struggled against dread and fate, as well as their professional egos. Then there was Audra, who was caught between two families. Her financial relationships with the Abbotts, indirectly through Sally, and her past with Noah emotionally bound her to the Abbotts. Even after airing for decades, The Young and the Restless remains relevant because of its multi-layered storytelling. Every episode works like a living thing, with each heartbeat influencing the others. The episode's themes were redemption, guilt, and connection. From a thematic perspective, Nick's urgent mission and Audra's sad day was about consequence and connection. Broken connections were a theme in all of the primary plots, including Audra's enduring tie to Noah, Nick and Sharon's parental bond, and Jack and Billy's brotherhood. Every character was attempting to mend a bridge that had been damaged by sorrow, pride, or time. Guilt. Nick's guilt for failing to safeguard his son, Audra's regret for her previous choices, and Billy's guilt over his financial failures. All of them were plagued by what-ifs. YNR's longevity can be attributed to its emotional undercurrent. Redemption. The prospect of redemption permeated the entire episode. Audra sought emotional clarity to restore her humanity. Nick sought justice to restore his fatherhood, and Jack sought to restore his family's unity. A masterclass in the structure of soap operas. This episode demonstrated The Young and the Restless skill at tone and timing from a storytelling standpoint. The narrative flowed naturally between more expansive, suspenseful arcs and more personal, emotional beats. The Abbott sequences provided depth, fueled by discussion and introspection. Scenes from the Newman probe added vigor, urgency, and emotional strain. Mystery and sorrow were imparted by the Audra subplot. The three emotional registers of conflict, compassion, and reflection were deftly handled by the authors without detracting from the flow of the story. Nick's clenched fists at the mention of Noah's attacker, Jack's hand on Billy's shoulder, and Audra's silent cry as she glanced at her phone were all examples of visual narrative choices that enhanced the emotional resonance without resorting to superfluous words. Actors who made the episode better. One cannot talk about this episode without complimenting the cast's performances. Jack Abbott's character, Peter Bergman, gave a master tutorial in subtle authority. Jack's attempts to make amends with Billy felt sincere rather than patronizing because of his quiet command and emotional intelligence. Billy's tormented soul was once more seized by Jason Thompson. One of the show's strongest points is still his ability to switch from being defensive and vulnerable in a single exchange. One of Joshua Morrow's most visceral performances in recent memory was delivered. His portrayal of a parent on the verge of losing his mind, torn between anger and hopelessness, was compelling. His pulse was audible through the screen. The episode's emotional core was anchored by Sharon Newman. More could be communicated in her quiet moments than in a dozen lines of conversation. The more subdued scenes were stolen by Silver. She did a fantastic job of capturing Audra's internal conflict between ambition and passion, confidence and guilt. Her scenes alluded to change, implying that a significant shift in her character development would be imminent. The cliffhanger, unresolved questions. The audience was left holding their breath as the program came to a close. Would Billy and Jack actually make amends, or would they become estranged due to yet another miscommunication? Would Nick discover Noah's crash's cause before it was too late? Would Sharon's son be able to survive on her faith alone? And would Audra get into trouble or return to the Newman orbit as a result of her rekindled feelings? These are emotional pledges rather than merely story points. Every query guarantees that fans will tune in eagerly on Monday in search of answers. The reasons this episode was important. The episode Nick's Urgent Mission and Audra's Sad Day lacked a lot of spectacular courtroom confrontations or explosions. It thrived on emotional reality instead. It looked at what happens when love meets grief, when pride meets vulnerability, and when the past won't go away. The young and the restless excels at this. It reminds us that the most intense conflicts are fought in the heart, even in Genoa City, by capturing the intimate, personal moments inside the big soap opera scale. Nick's frantic pursuit of justice, Jack's longing for connection, and Audra's agonizing introspection all pointed to the same conclusion. Atonement is possible, but it always has a cost. Towards the future, the path following October 17th. If this episode was the storm, the fallout should be just as interesting. Nick's inquiry is probably going to reveal startling facts regarding who and why they intended to hurt Noah. Though fans are aware that motivations on YNR can lie beneath layers of emotional history, early clues point to a business or personal grudge. The reconnection between Jack and Billy might change Jabot's destiny. Kane Ashby's danger won't go away without a fight. Anticipate more moral quandaries and boardroom explosions. Audra may be saved or destroyed by her emotional reckoning. Whether she turns into a villain of self-destruction or a hero of pain will depend on her subsequent decisions. The emotional thread that unites the people of Genoa City, loyalty, love, and the never-ending quest for second chances, hangs over everything. Concluding remarks. The Young and the Restless October 17th, 2025 episode was a heartfelt symphony of suffering, hope, and tenacity rather than just another Friday cliffhanger. Nick's pressing assignment served as a reminder of the unwavering affection of a parent. Sharon's silent anguish served as a reminder of the power inherent in silence. The tense brotherhood between Jack and Billy served as a reminder that family, no matter how complex, is still the main focus of this program. Additionally, Audra's depressing day served as a reminder that sometimes it's harder to forgive yourself. Ultimately, the episode left viewers with resonance rather than resolution. It prompted us to consider the bonds that unite us and how love may illuminate the road forward even during our darkest moments. Even though Genoa City is a work of fiction, the feelings it arouses are painfully genuine.